So welcome back, everyone. I am Dale Barzi, and this is Conversations with Nurses. My guest today is Dr. Bernice Bramble. Dr. Bramble hails from the island of Montserrat and currently lives in the United States, lives and practices in the United States. She's a registered nurse. She has with specialty in critical care. She's an educator. She's a lecturer. She is a public speaker. And I'm going to let Dr. Bramble tell you all about herself. So welcome, Dr. Bramble.
Thank you, Dale.
How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Okay. And I want to start by thanking you very much for consenting to speak to me today, to share experiences that you've had in the hope that, you know, someone can benefit from all this wonderful experiences you've had.
Yes, and I also want to thank you for the opportunity to be able to speak to you. You know, I am always want to be in touch with, you know, my fellow Montserratians, nurses in general. So I really welcome this opportunity.
You're more than welcome anytime. So the first thing that I always want to know is why people become nurses. So why did you become a nurse?
Well, that is a long story. I, I remember back in the day, you know, going to school in Montserrat. I went to Cockhill Primary School.
Mhm.
And I remember when I was about 5 or 6, you know, the teachers would gather us in a group and they would ask, what would you like to be when you grow up? I
Uh-huh.
always wanted to be a teacher.
Okay.
I guess I wanted to be a teacher because that was the reality that I knew.
Okay.
You know, I knew teachers and they were well respected in the community. So I figured that, you know, that would be something to want to be.
Mm-hmm.
And in actual fact, when I left secondary school, my first job was an elementary school teacher.
Okay. I
I
didn't know
did,
that.
yes, I did it for a couple of years, and then I got into nursing by chance. My older sister, Idris,
Mm-hmm.
she was the one who really wanted to be a nurse.
Okay.
So I remember they used to advertise for people to come in and write the entrance exam for nurses. And
Okay.
she asked me to accompany her. Well, I went and I wrote the test and I got accepted.
Okay.
The irony is she didn't get accepted
Oh dear.
because they only needed 6 people, and I guess it was going to be too much to take 2 from 1 family.
Oh, uh-huh.
She subsequently became a nurse, you know, which I'm proud to say.
Yes.
So I started at Glennon Hospital, but my site was actually, you know, getting the best training that I could get. So
Yeah.
I applied to go to the United Kingdom.
Okay. Okay.
That was where my journey started.
Okay. Okay. So tell me about this entrance exam. I did not know about this. First of all, what was required for you to take the entrance exam?
I guess, you know, like graduating from high school, some sort of high
Okay.
school. But at that time, you know, not much emphasis was placed on education.
Mm-hmm.
I guess they
Mm-hmm.
were just looking for people who had good character reference, you know,
Yeah.
elementary school. Because when I started working at Glendon Hospital, most of the nurses just had elementary school education.
Education. Okay. Okay.
Yes, but I think it was more of a character thing.
Okay. So then you went off to the United Kingdom
Yes,
and you became a nurse there.
yes.
And that was a 3-year program, yes?
I did a 3-year program. It was general nursing.
Mm-hmm.
Then I went to Scotland and did an 18-month program in midwifery.
Okay.
Yes.
So did you work in the United Kingdom at all after that?
I worked for a very short time, about 6 months.
Uh-huh.
And then I left and I always wanted to work in the Caribbean.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
I worked in Jamaica for a while.
Yeah.
And then then the time was right, I went back to Montserrat.
Okay. Okay. So you worked in Jamaica as a general nurse or as a midwife?
I worked as a general nurse. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. In a hospital setting, in a community setting, in a
I
hospital
worked
setting.
at the infamous Kingston Public Hospital.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Yes, I had a great experience. You know.
Uh-huh. And then you went back to Montserrat.
And then I went back to Montserrat.
Uh-huh. And just stayed there for
I stayed there for about 5 years.
uh-huh.
I worked in the midwifery. I think I was one of the lead nurses in midwifery
Yes.
in the maternity unit. And I guess I decided to leave you know, again. So I went to further my education at the University of the West Indies. I did a degree in health education.
Okay.
Yes, and then I went back to Montserrat.
Uh-huh.
Yes,
So you have been working everywhere.
pretty much, yes.
So the question I have then is, what do you find are the differences? You worked in the United Kingdom, you worked in the Caribbean, you worked in the United States. What do you find are the differences?
Well, generally speaking, my goal is to just have a purposeful life and to create meaning in my life.
Okay.
And at the
Okay.
same time, to help my fellow community people.
Mm-hmm.
Generally speaking, dealing with people apart from the cultures, nursing wasn't really any different.
Okay.
You know? I
Mm-hmm.
guess that was then. No, there are lots of differences.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But at that time, I was pretty much able to adapt into the different situation
Uh-huh.
because I'm a people-oriented person,
Okay. Yes.
and my thing is to help people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So when you came to the United States, did you have to redo any education, or were you just able to take the boards?
I had to do a foreign nursing exam.
Okay.
And once I got through that, then I was able to work in the hospital,
Mm-hmm.
then do the state boards.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. Awesome. So now I know that for most of your nursing life, you've been in critical care. Yes.
Yes, yes.
Why critical care? What drew you to that?
Well, I guess I like challenges,
Mm-hmm.
but I guess back in those days in Montserrat, we didn't have critical care.
Indeed.
So
Uh-huh.
it was a new concept for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was given the opportunity, so I decided I would just embrace it.
Yes.
And once I got into it, I realized that was the place to be.
Uh-huh. So walk me through a typical day in critical care. How is that?
Typical day, challenging.
Yes.
Very challenging, but a lot to learn, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it made me feel good being a nurse because I realized that I was functioning at the cutting edge
Yes.
of healthcare
Yes.
and making a difference.
Yeah.
So I really like that specialty.
Mm-hmm. 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 But it's one of those areas where, your adrenaline is pumping all day.
Yes, yes, yes.
So, because, I used to be the acute care type of nurse myself. So your adrenaline is going all day. So what do you do to relax? How do you withdraw from that?
Well, I guess I'm a very busy person.
Mm-hmm.
I am usually calm, which I can I guess I got that sort of disposition training in my training as a nurse in England.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Because I remember back in those days, we would write notes.
Yes.
And the first function was be calm.
Be calm. Yes.
And I remember one of the matrons saying that if they ever see you running, you're going to have to give some good excuse
Yes.
because you have to remain calm. So I took that sort of training into my critical care functioning.
Yeah.
And I realized that the important thing was to know what you're doing, and once you know what you're doing, then a lot of the stress is relieved.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
sort of got myself well educated in terms
Yes.
of what was expected of me.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And I notice as I speak to people that the ability to be calm in a critical situation is really one of the characteristics of a critical care nurse.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they have that ability. You don't fly off. You don't fly. Maybe afterwards you start shaking,
Yes.
but in the midst of it all, very calm.
Yes, it's a kind of programming, and I guess you can actually anticipate things happening.
Yes.
That helps. And you know that you can only function when you're calm.
Yes.
That's one of the things that I was surprised by when I came to work in the United States,
Mm-hmm.
because I guess there's a high level of energy
Yes.
and there's a lot of chaos. But to
In
be able to remain calm in spite of
the
the
midst, yeah,
chaos, you know?
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a really big thing.
Yes, it is.
That's a really big thing. So I know that you also lecture.
Yes.
So how do you like that?
I love it. In fact, I did a 360 in my career, but I always wanted to teach.
Yes,
And
yes.
I did do it while I was at the bedside,
Mm-hmm.
because I functioned for a long time as a preceptor.
Okay, yes.
I would orient the new nurses as they came into the field and basically acted as a resource personnel for younger nurses
Mm-hmm,
and even
mm-hmm,
some of the older nurses.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
I pretty much like that role.
mm-hmm.
So getting into education was, I figured, I thought of it for a while, and I thought that retiring from the bedside, I wasn't going to be the kind of person who would stay at home.
Uh-huh.
So I figured I would get myself in a position so that when the time comes, I can just slide into teaching.
Into education. Yes, yes, yes. So I realized as I was, that first of all, healthcare and the delivery of healthcare has evolved
Yes,
from the days when people like us became nurses. And so that being so, the education of nurses also has to evolve.
yes,
One of the observations I hear when I speak to nurses, particularly older nurses, is that nurses today are different. Nurses today don't come with caring. Nurses today. Do you find that to be true, or is it just because we're delivering a different healthcare in a different way?
I think, but basically they are different, but then I guess we were different,
Yes.
because I remember when I went into nurses and the older nurses used to say that we are different. I guess we have evolved with time, and it's something that we embrace.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Um, I am not one of those older nurses who would quote unquote beat up on the younger ones. I figure that we're there and they have lessons to teach us and we have
And
lessons
we
to
have.
teach them.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
This is how I carry out my duties,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Indeed. 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 Um, I don't really pretend to understand fully the way nurses are educated today, quite honestly, because although I accept that it has to change and it's important and essential that it does change, I am one of those who think that we don't place enough emphasis on our clinical roles, and so I think that nurses come, and it seems to me that very often they come into the clinical area and they're a little disoriented. They're fully engaged academically, but they're a little disoriented in the clinical area, and I think that must be really hard for them to make that leap sometimes from you know being, because most of the time I know they're being observers when
Yes.
they during the educational period, and to come from being the observer to the practitioner sometimes seem to be a little bit of a disconnect, which is where people like you, the preceptor, come in.
Yes. And that is quite true. And that was one of the reasons why I was sort of steered towards wanting to teach, because there is actually a shortage of faculty.
Uh-huh.
There's a shortage of nurses in general, but there's a shortage of faculty members. And also, one of the reasons why the clinical is so lacking is because of the programs. There are different type of programs. Some are more clinically oriented and consequently have a wider range of clinical activities,
Yes.
while others are not. I guess based on, it's limited, and I guess once you move from one entry level, like the diploma,
Mm-hmm.
the associate to the bachelor's, the clinical becomes less.
Yes.
Becomes
Yes.
less.
Mm-hmm.
So you usually find that those nurses who are trained in a diploma program tend to be more sound clinically.
Yes.
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 And it's worse now in this COVID environment. You know?
Yes. So I'm glad you mentioned that, because how does it affect you now? Are you teaching remotely, or how does
Well,
that work?
I do lectures remotely, and
Uh-huh.
we were able to do some clinicals in the classroom with social distancing and all those things. But now we're closed again.
Oh my goodness.
There's actually a lot of clinical
Yeah.
teaching. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Try to do it as
So,
best as I can with using videos and that sort of
mm-hmm.
thing, but it's not the
Mm-hmm.
same.
Yeah, it's not the same, because again, as you mentioned, being a nurse means being close to people. Just
I'm a hands-on person.
mm-hmm.
I think that is what nursing is really
It
about.
it is. It is.
It's about patient satisfaction. It's about taking care of families. It's about being there for the patient.
Yeah.
It's about being empathetic
Mm-hmm.
and all those qualities that we had to have in order to be accepted in the program.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what do you do for self-care?
I do a lot. I do a lot. I've always only worked 3 days a week, flex
Okay.
time, even when I was a manager, because I
Mm-hmm.
did manage for a while in Florida. I worked three
Yeah.
days a week. So I've always had a lot of time on my hands. So I read, I travel, I hike, I walk, I listen to music, I mentor the younger generation, and I keep up with technology.
All right.
I have my hands full.
Yeah, I was about to say, it sounds like your relaxation time is busy.
Yes, busy, busy. Yeah, I have things to do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
understood, understood. So, seeing as you are so involved with nursing education, nurses coming up, what do you say to them? What do you say to someone who wants to be a nurse, um, either before they're into the program or once they're into the program? Because, well, before they start the program anyway.
Yes. Well, I'm happy to say I sell nursing.
Okay.
I have 5 sisters who are nurses.
Wow.
I
Good
have
job.
I have 3 nieces who are nurses. So I mean, they see it from, I think if I can pat myself a little, I think I'm a good role model.
I
You
would
know,
say so. I would say so.
I preach nursing. This is what I do. And once I'm finished talking, the students that I have, I tell them it's a challenging job,
Yes.
but it is a rewarding job.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to do it. Nurses are great people. And if you want to be a great nurse, these are the things that you have to do.
Mm-hmm.
You have to do the work technically.
Mm-hmm.
You have to do the work.
Yes, you do.
But it's tough.
It is tough. It
So,
is tough. And
yes.
speaking of how tough it is, that brings me to my second question with that.
Yeah.
Nurses who are at the point where they are beginning to burn out and they're thinking, I can't do this. What do
There
you
is
say to that?
there is a lot of burnout. If I could tell you a little story, my last niece, the one who graduated, she works at one of the public hospitals.
Yeah.
And I remember she came off orientation, I think, like 3 months prior to COVID.
Yes.
And I remember one day she called me and she said, Auntie Sally, I have 10 patients and they all vented.
Yes.
Okay. She has no experience in critical care.
Yes.
I said to her, you just go in there, you just do what you have to do.
Yes.
You do what you have to do. You do what you know. You do your best. And that is all that is expected. But it is tough. It is tough. And I spend a lot of time actually doing a little life coaching and
Yes.
counseling.
Yes.
Yes, and letting them know that they can do it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think a lot of time is the confidence that they have and the fear that they tend to have as well.
Yeah. It is scary. It can be very scary.
It is scary. I usually tell them the fact that I'm in it, that doesn't mean that sometimes I become overwhelmed.
Yes.
Just the nature of the job. But if you know how to deal with it, that is the thing. And if you're always prepared to do your best job, that is what it takes.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. One of the things I really actively discourage, because nursing is, as it is, you mentioned staff shortages and stuff like that, which allows nurses to work. You can work one whole month without taking a day off if you wanted to. I actively discourage that.
I know nurses who do that.
I know, but this is where you burn out the fastest, because you're not taking care of yourself, and it's only a matter of time before you are not able to take care of someone else, and that was what you started out attempting to do.
Yes.
You started out attempting to take care of people.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I that's my daily mantra. If you can't take care of yourself, you can't take care of anybody.
Yeah, yeah.
It
So
is important to take time out for yourself, and you need it.
you need it, and you need stuff that that fills you up.
Absolutely.
Um, Taking time off for yourself and just sleeping the time away doesn't fill you up.
No.
So one thing I encourage people to do is just find something else. Find something else that you love, that doesn't even bring you money or anything like that. Just stuff that you just want to do because you just want to do it.
And it feels good.
And it feels good. And it feels good. Yeah.
Yeah, as you get older, you find that you have to keep up with, just life. You have to challenge yourself. So you have to take on your challenges.
You have to take on your challenges. So we've talked about all the good things that you like about this job. What do you like the least?
Well, I think the fact that nurses don't really spend a lot of time at the bedside, because I do a lot of research as well, and it is found that nurses spend like about 30% of their time at the bedside.
Mm-hmm.
So the patients don't really get the kind of care that they should, because they look to the nurses.
Yes, that's why we're there.
Because they'll ask you, where is my nurse?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times they don't really know the amount of things that nurse has to do.
Yeah.
Documentation, giving medication,
Yeah.
and even non-nursing duties,
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing with nursing is that everybody's job description is yours.
Yours. Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Unfortunately, everybody's job description is yours, and as the consumer, the patient doesn't really see that, and sometimes you are at the end of your tether.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And they don't see that. Even I had someone say to me the other day, I was speaking to someone who's not a nurse, but talking about getting these little talks together and talking about how nursing has changed. And, we now have a lot of advanced practice nurses and stuff like that. And someone says to me, I just never understand why people have to have bachelor's degrees to be a nurse. You're just getting doctor's orders anyway. No, that's not what it is.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, people still see us as doctors' handmaidens sometimes.
Oh yes, oh yes. We have evolved far.
Way beyond that, and that was one of the reasons I want to talk to nurses, because people don't actually understand that.
Yes, and this is what I tell my students, that one of their biggest function is education.
Yes.
Educate the family, educate the patient, educate the public.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we start, then they realize what we really do.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that is, no hospital can run without a nurse.
Absolutely.
We are the biggest workers, group of
the largest department.
Absolutely, and we're the ones who keep everything going. But I guess I think the public has that concept because of lack of education.
Yeah.
Once they get to know, and we have to educate them, and we have to show them our value and our worth.
Yes.
And that I think that it begins with us and it ends with us.
Yes.
How we project ourselves.
Yes, we have to first know our value and our worth, and then project it so others can see and appreciate it.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
But those nurse practitioners, and they're filling a big gap.
Oh, yes,
Healthcare,
absolutely.
you know, people don't
Absolutely.
realize that you need the education because we are professionals.
Mm-hmm.
So you
Mm-hmm.
have to, you have to meet the standard
And hold it up.
and hold it up. Yes.
You have to meet that standard and hold it up. And it's a very essential thing to do.
Yes.
Yes. So I have a question I'd like to ask people if they have any particular stories they want to share. Because as nurses, we have endless stories.
Oh yes. Oh yes. I have a lot of stories, but the ones that are closest to my heart are the ones from the islands.
Yeah.
Because somehow I always felt that there were our island people, whether it's Jamaica or Montserrat or the Bahamas, they really make you feel good to be a nurse.
Yes.
They value you and they respect you a lot more than in some of these developed societies. And I remember probably about a year ago, I got this text on Facebook from a person, I didn't recognize the name, who wanted to be my friend. So
Uh-huh.
of course you're reluctant to. I looked at her page, I didn't recognize anybody. So I said, I didn't accept the request. So she kept requesting.
Yeah.
And then one day I said to myself, let me just respond. So I responded.
Yes.
And then she got on the phone. I don't know how she got my number. She called me. And she said, my name is Ann Allen. I am Nancy's mother. And I said, Nancy, who is Nancy? You remember that little girl that you became friends with when she was in the children's ward at Glendon Hospital? I think she was about 4 years old, and she used to cry a lot. So I used to go over and sat near to her little bed, and we would talk. And even when she was discharged, I
Yeah.
visited her. She came from Kinsale.
Uh,
I visited her quite a few times. And she said, no, she's 40. And, and she's still asking about you. And that really warmed my heart.
yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Those things,
Yes, those things warm.
every now and then something like that happens.
Yes.
And yes.
Yeah, so that's a good story.
Well, thanks for sharing it.
We
Uh-huh.
arranged to meet, but COVID came in the middle. So we haven't actually met.
Okay.
But they live just a state away from me. So at some point, we will
You
meet.
will. You
Yeah.
will meet. You
Yeah.
will meet.
Yes.
All right. Well, I want to thank you very, very much for talking to me today. I hope we can do this again sometime.
Oh, you're very welcome again.
Yeah, and I want to look forward to creating a discussion around particular subjects at some point in the future.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely, yes. And
All right.
thank you for inviting me.
I really do appreciate your time.
You're welcome.